भारत कीर्ति सीरीज।
Namaste. Welcome to episode 3 of Mauryalok. What are we going to discuss today? Today is the turn of the second Prakriti of the Saptang state, which was, if you remember, Amatya or administration. So if we speak of Amatya, administration and Mauryalok in the same breath, we must mention Acharya Chanakya, Kautilya, Vishnugupta. So today we shall speak of him. We shall speak of his composition, the Arthashastra, and we shall speak of Mauryan administration in theory as well as in practice. So let us start with the main character in today's story, Acharya Chanakya. Who was he? Where did he come from? We have a lot of information about Chanakya or Kautilya from many kinds of Indic sources. Apart from the usual Sanskrit texts, we also have Buddhist and Jain sources. We have actually the Badkaha, which is the old 6th century BCE story cycle written in Paishachi Prakrit, which has been lost, but many versions of that in Sanskrit in the 11th century Kashmiri Pandit Shemendra's composition Brihat Katha Manjari. Then we have the Katha Sarit Sagar. We also have Tamil and Marathi versions. Now in all these story cycles, Chanakya is a poor Brahmin. He is born in a poor Brahmin household, born with all his teeth, and his father gets very worried because this augurs for a royal future for his son, which he doesn't want. So the story goes that he grinds all the teeth off, and therefore Chanakya, instead of becoming a king, becomes a kingmaker. So he grows up, becomes a Prakand Pandit. He lives a life full of intellectual riches but poor in worldly terms. So he goes to seek his fortune with the Nanda king Dhananand. He is insulted there by Dhananand and his Asmita is challenged. So he decides that he will rid the face of this earth of the name Nand. He catches sight of that extraordinary boy called Chandragupta, brings him up, trains him, the two together raise an army, and the rest is history, which I told you about in episode number 2. Now to move on to his composition, which is called the Arthashastra. Before I go on to a discussion of the composition proper, a little bit of a background about the beginning of the 20th century when this Arthashastra was actually rediscovered. So it was in 1904 that R. Shama Shastri of the Mysore Oriental Research Institute found a full text of the Arthashastra. He published it in Sanskrit in 1909 and in English in 1915. This was a seismic event in Indian historiography. In the Eurocentric world of then and even now, no one could imagine that such sophisticated and complex theories of politics and economics could have been part of the Indic tradition. People have studied it since then and study it very hard even today. There are those who say it does not belong to the modern period. There are those who say it belongs to the Gupta period. Some say it belongs to very much before the Mauryans. However, the sum and substance of the evidence points to a link between Chandragupta, Kautilya, Arthashastra and the Mauryans, which cannot be eradicated, and so it is. It was Chandragupta of Patliputra who ran the Mauryan Empire and whose preceptor Acharya Chanakya composed the Arthashastra. Now, what is the Arthashastra? Of course, as the name suggests, it is the science of earth, the study of earth, which is sustenance or livelihood. So it is Palan as well as Labh. So you have to maintain your livelihood and also add to it. So this means that the livelihood addition part needs some kind of science of statecraft. So politics, apart from economics of course, politics, foreign policy, statecraft, administration, all these are included in the 15 adhikarans or chapters of this book. The first one is called Vinay Adhikarikam, which is about training of all the administrators in the empire as well as the king. We have spoken of it before. The next chapter is about all the adhyakshas or departments which we will speak of today. There are a couple of chapters, Dharmasthiyam and Kantakshodhanam, on judges and the law system. There are 2 chapters, Mandal Yoni and Shadgunyam, on foreign policy and on the circle of kings around the Vijigishu or our emperor. There are chapters 9 to 13 on war, warfare and defense. Then you have a chapter on occult practices. There is also a chapter on conduct of officials. And the last chapter, Tantra Yukti, is about how to study the Arthashastra the Indic way. So this gives you an overview of the entire composition. Of course, in the series called Mauryalok, we will consider different chapters of these in detail. Today we will look in a very focused way at chapter 2, Adhyaksha Pracharaha. Of course, we will also refer to different parts of the book, but this will be the focus because we are going to look at what is it? Administration. So, who were these Amatyas to be? Remember, Amatyas and consultation with them was a very, very important part of the concept of kingship, as we have seen in episode 2. So, these able people had to give their inputs to the king so that the king could run the empire very well. So, the qualities of these Amatyas was also extremely critical. This has been looked at in detail and set down in the Arthashastra. They needed to have the qualities of Sattva, Pragya and Vak Shakti. They had to have loyalty, they had to have integrity. They had to pass through a number of tests which would test their attitude towards Dharma, Arth, Kam as well as their valor. They were to be selected only on the basis of a test. They had to be learned in the Shastras, and after they were selected, their code of conduct is also set down in the Arthashastra. Now we know how these people should be, and there is also a discussion on the number of Amatyas anyone should have. Kautilya is of the view that you should have as many Amatyas as you need, which sounds very fair. So now to go on to the exact way in which the framework was structured. So what was the framework like? At the top, of course, we have the king. Then the king had an inner council which consisted of the prime minister, the purohit, the senapati and the yuvraj. At times it also included the queen or the queen mother. These were the inner and most important advisors of the king. Other than that, there was also a regional administration. The Arthashastra mentions 4 sthaniks. We cannot draw a straight line between the sthanik of the Arthashastra and the viceroy of the Mauryans, but do remember that the Mauryans had 4 viceroys, as we saw in the last episode, and there seems to be a kind of parallel over here. The sthaniks also had the gopas under them, which was each gop had say 10-12 villages to administer, and at the village level you had the head of the village called the Gramik, and then you also had a group called the Gram Vriddhas, which was like a proto panchayat. Now the king had 2 other very, very important people in his service. One was the Dawarik and the other was the Antarvanshika. The Dawarik was the chief of the palace guard, and the Antarvanshika was the chief of the king's guard, the personal guards of the king. And this chief was always, but always, a woman. So the chief of Chandragupta's guards was always a woman. These 2 reported directly to the king. Now after this, we move on to the administration proper, the nuts and bolts. So there were 2 big towering administrators, which the same status, the Sannidhatri and the Samahartri. The Samahartri, I will deal with first, was a kind of mix of a home minister and a finance minister. He had the responsibility of forming the budget, looking at the revenue and expenditure, etc. He was also the home minister because he looked after internal security. He had a system of spies which reported to him. He had also a police system under him, and he was completely responsible for the internal security of the country as a whole. So this is the Samahartri. Now we go on to the Sannidhatri. So the Sannidhatri looked after the actual wealth of the kingdom, the actual goods which came in, and therefore he had to have 6 kinds of storehouses built and maintained. He also had to build a secret storehouse, and with him worked those 33 Adhyakshas who are mentioned in the Arthashastra. 30 of them are mentioned in chapter 2 and 3 in some other places. So these Adhyakshas were of different kinds. Some of them looked after state departments, others looked after the goods which came in. For example, the important functions of the economy at the time: agriculture. Then you had people who looked after and collected horses. Elephants, indeed, were a very important part of the national wealth and had a full department for themselves. Then you had textiles, then you had pottery. Then, very importantly, you had internal trade. So you had people who controlled the bazaars and the taxation inside over there. There were also people, Adhyakshas, who controlled external trade, which means customs. So there was, in effect, a kind of 360-degree view of the economy inside the country and of external trade, and there were different departments to deal with that. Each of these Adhyakshas had another level of officers to supervise the actual working of the what were called the Tatpurushas or the servants. So they had people like the Lekhak, the Sankhyak, etc. There were 5 of these who looked after the goods, checked their quality, noted it down, supervised the servants, etc. So this was the way the Adhyaksh worked, and the Adhyakshas all reported to the Sannidhatri. There were also checks and balances, because other than the Sannidhatri and the Samahartri, you also had somebody called the Akshpatal Adhyaksh, what we would today call the Comptroller and Auditor General, who kept an eye on the working of all these. And the Samahartri also kept an eye on the working of the Adhyakshas. So there was a system of checks and balances. There was a very clearly laid out framework. Now remember, this is theoretical. This is not exactly as it happened in the Mauryan period, but there are enough evidences from inscriptions and texts, etc., for us to find out many parallels between what is written in the Arthashastra and what actually happened during the Mauryan period. So to what end was this wonderful, beautiful, well-oiled machinery? It was to the end of running that behemoth empire which Chandragupta ran. It was to control this very, very complex and huge machinery, to get the best out of it so that it could be invested again in making the empire bigger and better. This towering intellect of Chanakya created this vision of an administration thousands of years ago, when modes of travel were slow, modes of communication were slow. It was not a world like we live in now. But still, this machinery worked beautifully. It is one of the things, it is one of the hallmarks of the Mauryans, and it is still studied today for its complexity, for its for the way it delivered, for this Mauryan empire. The Arthashastra, which sets all this down theoretically, is an encyclopedia of ancient India. There is nothing which is above the vision of Chanakya. There is nothing which is below the vision of Chanakya. He encompasses everything possible under the ancient sun. And we have today seen one chapter in great detail, and we have looked at the administration. We will look at the other chapters and the other aspects of this behemoth empire as we go along. Thank you for being with me in this journey. Namaskar.
In the next episode, in fact, in the next 2 episodes, we will step into the Janpad, the land and the people, the most interesting aspect of the Saptang state. We will start with roti kapda or makan, food, clothing and shelter. In the next 2 episodes, you will catch an enchanting glimpse into the real lives of the Mauryans. What did they eat and where? Where did they live? Keep watching.